They're asking for an officer and director bar, which means he could not be an officer in any respect. In a court proceeding, the court could decide whether that's a permanent bar or for a limited period of time. But in any event, he couldn't be an officer in any way. Whether they would allow him to proceed in some sort of other way, like a research advisor or something, I'm not sure. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to what the settlement is or what the relief is at the end of a court action.
Having heard what Andrew's been reporting out, that there was a settlement that was ready to go yesterday morning, that Elon Musk balked at that he didn't want to sign something that would not allow him to deny guilt down the road. What happens at this point with the SEC? Because they certainly came out with both guns blazing in this complaint and what they've laid out against him.
I agree wholeheartedly. They did come out with both guns blazing. At this point, though, the SEC action won't move very quickly. It's a civil lawsuit. So he will have time to respond to it. There would be a period of discovery. It's kind of a hurry up and wait scenario. I mean, the other shoe could drop if we saw a criminal indictment, and that would move much quicker.
Just in terms of reading the tea leaves, this was filed in the Southern District of New York. What does that tell us, since most of this took place and what you would have assumed would have been filed in San Francisco?
Exactly right. I would have assumed it would be filed in San Francisco. It looks like there's probably a parallel investigation where the Southern District of New York, which has the leading fraud prosecutors in the country, is probably taking the lead on this case. I can't think of another reason to file in New York where you have people in San Francisco from the SEC investigating the securities fraud charges there.
I want to get to Bob, but I have one quick question to Keri, which is, in the complaint, what you don't see are emails, texts, or other things that would demonstrate. I mean, there's an effort to show demonstration of intent, but there are no emails or texts, at least in the hours after the tweet went out, saying, I got the shorts, or man, I did this, or whatever, it's something in a sort of smoking gun-ish way. Is that because they haven't collected all of the material at this point? I guess the question is, if that existed, would have that already been in the complaint, or is that still something that they'd find or could find in discovery?
Andrew, I also thought that was very thin, that complaint. I would have expected more facts in there, and that does imply that they've kind of rushed this case along. I don't think they've talked to everybody who would be a witness in this case.
Okay.
All right, Bob, let's talk through what you think the state of the company is right now. We should point out you are somebody who's been a longtime critic of this. And
I've been a longtime realist. And the fact is, they may call themselves wildly successful, but they've never made a profit, and they've burned through billions of dollars of other people's money. And they are demonstrably very short of cash again, with some huge debt repayments coming up early next year. And the real problem with this SEC regulation, and the reason Elon and the company should take any deal that's offered them, is while you are under SEC investigation for fraud or violation of rules of interstate commerce or whatever, but while you are under investigation, you can't raise money. The SEC simply will not permit it. So they're facing a situation where another capital raise is going to be imminent, because they are running out of cash, and the street consensus are that the third quarter numbers are not going to be as good as hoped, and possibly even negative. So still burning cash, going to have to raise capital, and can't raise capital. And there is a huge dilemma for the company, because without fresh cash, they're not going to make it.
That's a really interesting point. Keri, when you see something like this has happened, is there a chance for a deal to come back to the SEC?
There's always a chance. The SEC likes deals.
So you don't look at this as you had this one opportunity, bird in the hand. Clearly, there was a decision made yesterday morning not to take it. My understanding was everybody was planning to put out statements. In fact, that would have indicated there was an agreement that had been agreed to, and then this was pulled back at the last minute, and then of course they proceeded with this announcement. Your sense is you could actually go back, and the question is, what could you go back for?
Well, we don't know yet exactly what the terms were that were rejected.
Let me put those on the table because I did report on this earlier this morning. This was a no admit, no deny settlement, financial penalties only, both for Musk and for the company.
And you believe there was no officer director bar in
Correct.
that settlement also?
Correct.
Yeah, because that strikes me as the deal breaker for Musk. Whenever you're talking about ruining somebody's career, that kind of case often goes to trial. If the SEC is willing to agree to something less, the case is probably resolvable. But, if he walked away from that, you're probably right. He might not be willing to agree to anything reasonable.
Bob, what do you think about the board? Because last night they put out a statement of support, unqualified support, basically, for Elon Musk.
Well, I think that board is not quite like other public company boards. I think there's a lot of people on there that were selected by Elon Musk, related to Elon Musk, personal friends of Elon Musk. So it's not exactly like other boards where you have independent directors. And I'm not surprised with that statement. And as part of the statement of the board, I thought, what most successful American car company in the last how many years?
I wondered about that too. I know. I
mean, that's a joke. They make some nice cars.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the automobiles. They're fine. But the business is an unmitigated disaster and always has been. Loses on every car, draining cash, always going back for fresh money, can't get a production apparatus going. Now he can't get the logistics going. It claims he has no car carriers. Other car companies have no problem obtaining car carriers. And here's one thing that's biting him. See, other car companies, the minute that car goes out the factory door, you bill the dealer. And the dealer then has 60 days to pay. But Elon Musk has no dealers. He has factory stores. So when the car goes out the door, he doesn't get any money the way another car company does. He has to wait until that vehicle is shipped to a dealer and then actually handed to a customer. That he doesn't get paid until the ultimate transaction. So there's another huge disadvantage of this scheme of not having franchise dealers, quite aside from the fact that it ties up enormous amounts of capital. He owns the new car inventory. He owns the used car inventory. That's one of the reasons Tesla has a tough time being profitable, is because of their unique factory-owned distribution structure. So the whole company is one disastrous mess. And if I were that board, I would thank Elon for a job well done, keep him visible in some place, and then get professional management for the company, which is something they badly need. And no question, Elon is a genius creator, a dreamer. The world needs people like that. The trouble is they usually can't run things very well.